So I just saw this video from Treantmonks Temple, which addresses an issue I think is very front and center for the D&D community, the martial caster divide. I love Chris's videos. However, something about this video felt off to me. The central premise, I will try not to misrepresent it, but is that there is this divide between martials and casters where casters through spells are able to do every role more effectively than martials.
So what is the martial caster divide? It's the theory that in D&D, spellcasters, like wizards and druids, are so much more powerful than non-casters, like fighters and barbarians, that they can outperform them in every way.
And Chris kind of gets into, what martials should be good at and what spellcasters should be good at. The conclusion that he comes to is there are some spells, just a few, he didn't name a specific number, but let's say in the magnitude of like 20 spells that are overpowered. And if those are reined in, then casters are, fixed, essentially, that there's no martial caster divide that we need to worry about.
The martial caster divide is not an issue caused by class features. It is caused by spell design. The martial caster divide is a problem created by some spell design.
And I think it misses the main point of that conflict. So I wanted to address that really quickly and just share my thoughts. It's true that some of these spells are so overpowered that they enable spellcasters to fill roles they would not ordinarily fill. I'm doing a video right now where I'm ranking all of the classes and subclasses according to how well they fill these different roles. And something that comes up again and again in my analysis is I kind of have to pretend like spellcasting is worse than it is, just in order to smooth out the curve. Or it would really just be, spellcasters are all in the A tier for every role. Because there's a spell for a lot of different situations that can come up, and I'm not just talking about combat, right? I think the point is, even if all of the spells were worse, if we reduce the damage on everything, if we decreased spell saves, now in spell save DC, instead of being 8+, it's now 5+, so everything is more likely to succeed. If we do all this stuff to hamstring them, there's still going to be a martial caster divide. And the reason I think that is because of versatility. Martials are not equipped to handle a wide selection of problems. Their modus operandi, which is consistently something they can use, is the attack action against a target, either in melee or at range. And D&D is this game that is sort of straddling the line between a war game, where that is an effective, if basic, option, and something more than that. When we're talking about like role-playing or like an immersive fantasy game, talking your way out of combats, finding out how to get additional information on your opponents, being able to deceive them and go undercover, being able to come up with crazy new solutions and use the environment to your advantage, is so much of what makes the game fun. Not what makes characters powerful, but what makes the game fun. All these different options that casters, by their very nature, will always be better at. The options available to casters, one, they're choosing their prepared spells from a long list of spells with a lot of different potential applications. So they get this fun and immersive decision tree right at the beginning to say, what am I going to be prepared to handle? But then in the moment, in a combat, in a play-by-play, as things come up, they have this set of options. They have these spell slot resources, and they can choose to spend them on different spells, and they can choose to upcast, and they have this much greater depth to their character where they are able to adapt to what comes up and always seem to have a solution to the problem at hand. Now, if you pick your spells poorly, that's not the case. If you have very few spells that you get to pick, that's not the case. But generally speaking, most spellcasters are able to answer a wider variety of problems in a more elegant way than martials, regardless of the numbers, regardless of how much damage they are doing. And even when they fail, even when you cast a save or suck spell and it sucks, The fact that you had that spell for that moment and had a chance of having some big impact feels better than a marshal who is consistently hitting with their attacks and dealing some damage. At some point, I think Treantmonk must know this because he does say all of the things that I believe right in this section about the martial caster divide.
Utility spells could provide the ability to breathe water to the entire party. They can get the entire party flying. They can help the party communicate over a long distance. They can help the party travel across the world. They can help the party locate objectives. In addition, utility spells can replicate or even improve upon things marshals can do.
And then he says, that's some people's take, but not mine.
If anything, full spellcasters should be nerfed, not boosted. The designers had their opportunity here to address the martial caster divide, and they didn't do it. That's the reaction I've seen. That's not my reaction.
The problem I see with weapon masteries, and it's probably about time that I address this because I did a video reviewing the weapon masteries and I caught a little bit of flack for the way that I rated them, especially Grays. I was really unimpressed with Grays. And I got a lot of comments essentially saying, you've misunderstood what Grays is for. Grays is a lot better than you give it credit for. Numerically, it works out, for certain characters, they just want to make sure that they're going to be able to do something. I get it. The point of my analysis of Grays and of the weapon mastery system in general is how well does this compare to spell casting or even battle master maneuvers in terms of choice, not in terms of power. I don't care how much extra damage the weapon mastery allows you to do. I care how many options it gives you, how many different solutions you can bring to the table because you have mastered these weapons. And what I saw was very little of that. Push is good for that. Topple is good for that. There are options in the weapon mastery system, but it seems to be heavily skewed towards more passive effects tied to the attack action. So all marshals are going to be doing is exactly what they've always been doing, which is I run in and I attack, or I point out the biggest target and I attack with my longbow. And that stuff gets better. The numbers go higher and the DM will commensurately raise the monster's HP. Now that's kind of your one thing. You don't have a litany of things that you're bringing to the table. So the wizard is still going to shine in all sorts of situations where they have the solution to a problem. The sorcerer is still going to be able to not only be, have the spellcasting and the damage and the whatever else, they're still going to have the better persuasion and social diplomacy on top of all of that. The bard is still going to have this expertise that allows them to excel in these different skills while having this full spellcasting and all of these different solutions. And that's the divide, the choice divide, the options, the versatility. And it doesn't matter what they do in the spell revisions unless they make some very unpopular changes to what spells can do. Having access to spellcasting is the single best feature your character can have in the game, regardless of which spells you choose.